Hey everybody, it's Lady Kayla, and I figured it's time to do another vlog. Why not? Basically, I feel weird doing vlogs because they're a lot more unorganized, and I'm used to a little bit more structure. I do like to go off the cuff and whatnot, but gosh, it's weird not having topics, so I might still try to keep some sort of focus with my vlogs. I don't know how that's gonna work out, but yeah, so you guys were really receptive to my last vlog. You guys want to know more about what I'm reading and what I'm doing and whatnot. So I haven't been reading fantasy, which is my usual go-to and the love of my life. It's been hard for me to read, which is the sad thing to say is after my brother passed away and it made my mental health decline to a point that I didn't know it could because I already thought my mental health was pretty bad to begin with. I stopped reading, and it's really hard for me to sit down and not be in my brain, and it's really hard for me to focus on anything that is passionate to me has literally died, and it's really sad. I'm really aware of it, and it does break my heart, but that's just how it's been, and it takes me forever to get through a book. I try to reread through Game of Thrones because I love rereading that series, and it's something that I talk about a lot. A Song of Ice and Fire is my life, and to reread A Game of Thrones, which is my favorite book out of that series, was just really hard for me to do. And so I thought, well, maybe it's because it's, a book I've read before, and so I'm not going to get, as, intrigued because I already know what's going to happen. So I've been trying to read other things. I've been trying to read things that are simpler in the sense that it's not a lot of new information. I'm not going to be immersed in this entirely new world. So I've been reading things there's a book called Cunt, and it's the kind of just this feminist type perspective about the female body and the feminine energy in the real world and stuff like that. And it covers a lot. I really don't want to get into it. If you guys are into that book, you can read it or look it up yourself. This isn't a book review. Um, and another reason I'm really sad about not reading is because I started YouTube doing book reviews, and I'm not reading, and it used to be my favorite thing in the world, and it's not something that I dislike. It's just become hard. I'm also reading this book that my dog chewed up a little bit called The Bohemian Manifesto, and it's just talks about the Bohemian lifestyle and what Bohemians are into, what they do, and it's really helped me with it's actually helped with my depression because it talks about a lifestyle that I've always kind of felt in tune with, and I don't necessarily fall under all the rules of being a bohemian, but I do and have always had these values that the bohemians have, and so it's really helped me because I'm just oh, I'm not alone in this feeling that participating in this capitalistic society is draining my soul. Um, and so, yeah, it's really nice to read something that I can identify with instead of just using things for escapism. Um, what else should I talk about? You guys are also interested in my poetry. My poetry is very situation and emotion based. It's not something that I can just come up with off the top of my head. I can't just sit here and be oh, I'm going to write a poem about nature. Every once in a while I am very much inspired by nature, but usually it will be in parallel to what I am feeling at the time. And I'm very insecure about my poems because they're very short. A lot of them are short, a lot of them make sense to me but might not make sense to somebody else. A lot of them make a lot of parallels and stuff that other people might not identify with, and I don't really mind whether or not somebody can identify with my poetry or not because it's my poetry, but at the same time, putting it out there is something I'm hesitant about and kind of insecure about because of how short it is and how personal it is, that I don't want people critiquing something that they can't or won't understand. Um, but I have posted my poetry on Instagram, and some people have identified with it, and that's about as public as I've gotten. I've thought about doing poetry readings or whatnot, but I don't know. I don't know if I have that kind of presence or rhythm to read my poems out loud. I don't know if they were meant to be read out loud. So I'm going to explore that territory soon and see what happens. Um, Maybe I'll read one or two in the future on one of my vlogs. Who knows? Depends on if you're interested or not. I mean, or if I'm inspired to or not. Um, what else do we have? I do want to do more vlogs on mental health because I feel like it's very important to talk about mental health and things that, you know, we all have our own like little quirks. We have like our own little um, things that pertain to our mental health that may be pertinent to social interaction with other people. And it really sucks that if, for instance, I went up to someone and I'm like, hey, I'm Kayla, like, by the way, you might notice some like mood changes during your interactions with me. You might notice maybe a panic attack. Maybe I'll cry for no reason. Maybe I'll become really withdrawn. Maybe I'll become really, you know, out there and very social and peppy. And it's just, you know, you can't really start a conversation like that. People would get really weirded out if you were like, oh yeah, by the way, you know, just so you know, this might happen in our interaction, and just thought I'd forewarn you. And you know, nobody has these conversations. Nobody talks to each other like that. And I think that's kind of the sad thing, because I have been in situations where I've had, you know, people don't really understand my transitions necessarily. I still don't understand my transitions, where I can be like, I'm the same person, but I can be two different like aspects of that person, not just two, but multiple aspects of that person. And so, you know, I can go from being like really happy, out there, outgoing, and you would think I was the most charismatic person around, and then all of a sudden like I shut down and I can't speak, and I have, you know, speech impediments, and I, you know, want to start crying because I'm having such a difficult time talking to people. And so you can see, you know, different things, and I'm sure that comes off as really weird to some people, or they think that perhaps I'm like faking it, or perhaps that, you know, I'm trying to like, you know, play them in some way, and it's really not that. It's just something that happens. And, you know, I don't know. It's really hard, and there have been times where I've had episodes in front of people, and it just, I feel bad because, you know, I didn't start the conversation with like, hey, like, you might experience this episode with me if I get triggered or something. And, you know, how do you start like those conversations with people, like especially strangers or people that you're getting to know more, and you want them to know, you know, and be aware of what's going to happen or what might happen, and then you can't. And it's just really hard, and it's something that I've just been trying to figure out, because I'm really tempted to just go out there and like say it, like, hey, this is something that might happen, sorry. um but at the same time, like, how would people respond? Like, you don't know. And um, that's also been hard for me. Um, I've I've been surrounding myself with people who are a lot more aware of mental health, and are more equipped to dealing with these types of conversations, because they're the conversations I need to have, especially being who I am. And that's been really refreshing. But every once in a while, I'll have an episode in front of somebody who's not as aware of various mental health issues, especially mine, and I will have an episode that even I have trouble explaining, and like I try to explain it to them, like, hey, you know, this just happened. I'm like, you know, sorry that you like had to like deal with that or see that, because like I'll have straight up like panic attacks where I'm like crying and apologizing, and sometimes I'm saying things that don't really make sense to the situation that I'm having with this person, but in my head it's separate, and it's, you know, they don't know how to connect it because it's not their episode, it's my episode. And I've had, you know, various things happen where people are like, it's okay, and they try to understand and they try to help me through it. I've had people who've made it all about them, and they're somehow like, oh, like, I'm sorry, like, I didn't mean to, and I'm trying to explain it's not you, it's not, anything, what happened, let me kind of backtrack and try to figure out what triggered it. And then when I try to backtrack, they're like, oh, well, I didn't mean to do that, and they get like defensive and like make it about them somehow, like, instead of, encouraging me to like figure out what happened. And it's really frustrating to go through something like that because even though I'm trying to figure it out, I'm trying to reason through it, even though I'm trying to like get over what just happened, I'm still like suffering the repercussions of whatever episode I just went through. Like, I still have just went through a panic attack. I still have just went through a dissociative bit. Um, and, I'm trying to work that out. And if you're over here making it about yourself, like, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen, blah, 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 or like, trying to like make it about you somehow, like, it's not helping me because I'm like, it's not like about you. Like, I can't sit here and try to take care of you and make you feel better about what just happened because I'm suffering about what just happened to me. Like, I just, it's really difficult because different people react different ways, and I try to be very understanding, and my immediate inclination is to make somebody feel better. And it takes away from me doing a lot of self-discovery because I'm too busy, like, oh, I'm sorry you just had to experience that. Like, I feel like I have to apologize for a lot of my mental health, and I feel like especially someone who, like me, who has a lot of like memory, like, loss and a lot of dissociative tendencies. Um, if I'm too worried about making you feel better after an episode I've had, I'm going to forget what just happened, and it's going to be harder for me to make my root in self-discovery and figure out what just happened and how I can make myself better. So yeah, it's really hard to have these conversations and just to open them. Like, how do you do that? Like, and I never know to what extent my mental health is going to affect somebody I'm getting, to know as a friend, as anybody. And so I'm just like, how much do I tell them? What if they never ever see an episode of mine? What if, like, I'm forever like the same type of person in front of this person, and like I don't have to tell them anything? And then I feel really bad because a lot of the times I take that route, and then all of a sudden, they notice like a personality switch, or they notice a mood switch, and they don't really know what's happening. And a lot of times they take it as, they did something wrong, or they feel like perhaps I'm being mean or something like that, and or I'm trying to like distance myself, which I do a lot. Like a lot of my self-preservation has been distancing because I don't want to get invested in somebody and then them freak out because I have mental health issues and I'm unpredictable a lot. And so that's what I've been dealing with. And I do want to talk more about like topics and like more specific mental health issues that I've been having in my vlogs, and hopefully that will help with the self-discovery process. So again, if you guys have questions that you want to ask me, just leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them for you. Um, Again, thank you for spending another like 10-15 minutes with me, and I might have like more vlogs. I tend to get like inspired like right after I do one vlog, and so like I kind of like maybe sometimes we'll have 2-3 vlogs from the same day and same time period, but that's just kind of what inspires me. And we'll see what happens after this. Thank you for your time. Bye.